The trial of Diddy has started, and things are quickly getting worse. New and shocking information keeps coming out, including claims that Diddy may have tampered with witnesses and slowed down the probe. He is now being charged with several major crimes, such as obstructing justice and tampering with witnesses. That's not all, though. There are rumors going around that he may have lied under oath, and the judge has made it clear that they will look into every detail. According to people who know the judge, his or her anger and frustration are slowly rising. If things keep going this way, Diddy could get a life term sooner than anyone thought. In this video, I'll explain what's going on in court and what Diddy has done that the judge is finding harder and harder to forgive. The hearing is in full swing, and new information is coming out all the time, which is making things very tense. How do you think the judge will decide? Type 1 in the comments if you think justice will be done. Type 0 if you think he will get away with it. Make sure you watch the movie and hit the subscribe button to show your support. On Thursday, May 8, 2025, the music mogul's high-profile hearing started out as a normal day. But things quickly took a turn for the worse. The hearing was taken over by Judge Aaron Subramanian, which is a very important event in the trial. Fans of the case who have been following it since May 5, when jury selection started, are now very excited. The trial will actually begin on Monday, May 12, when the opening statements will be given. Those in charge of the case think it will last 8 to 10 weeks. The courtroom was already very crowded and getting a lot of media attention. Things got even more tense when new evidence showed that Sean Diddy Combs may have lied during his earlier statement. This shocking news came up at a key pre-trial hearing where the 45 possible jurors were narrowed down so that only 12 would be chosen as official jurors and 6 would be chosen as alternates. At this hearing, prosecutors presented proof that directly contradicted what Combs had said before. This made things even more tense than they had been before. Combs is accused of lying about conversations he supposedly had with witnesses, which are important to the prosecution's case, and about past bail hearings. According to court records, Combs always denied trying to sway possible witnesses or getting in touch with anyone involved in the case. However, officials showed proof that Combs did interfere with witnesses while he was being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. According to these claims, Combs used the phone accounts of at least 8 other prisoners and took part in 3-way calls to talk to people who weren't on his approved contact list, which is against the prison's strict rules. However, what really shocked everyone in the courtroom was learning that one of the possible jurors had worked at MDC Brooklyn, the very prison where Combs has been held since September 2024. This shocking find made waves in the room, and some people couldn't help but laugh at how silly the situation was. People are worried that Diddy may have paid or promised things to jurors while he was being held at MDC Brooklyn since September. The judge, Subramanian, moved quickly and firmly, firing the juror right away. In an unusual move, he also told both the prosecution and defense teams they didn't fully check out the potential jurors. As the judge talked about how serious the accusations were and how important it was for the process to be done carefully and completely, the courtroom fell silent. As the meeting went on, the focus shifted to what the prosecutors called Combs's bigger scheme, which had nothing to do with the jury case. Prosecutors showed proof that Combs lied to the court on purpose about his conversations with important witnesses, including people who had been given subpoenas by the jury. According to court records, Combs called or texted Keena Harper, an old friend, 58 times in just 4 days beginning September 10, 2024. As soon as dawn broke, Richard sued him, saying he had assaulted him and done other bad things. It is said that Combs and Harper had a total of 128 contacts before they suddenly stopped on September 14, 2024. The lead lawyer, Emily Johnson, told the court that these messages were not just people trying to get help or make friends. In these schemes, the abuser tried to convince the victim that they had agreed to the sexual acts and made vague claims of ongoing financial help. She also said that Combs was using middlemen to spread fake stories and trick witnesses into giving different accounts. It was clear what the message was. If these actions are proven to be real, they are a serious threat to justice and the integrity of the court system. During earlier bail hearings, claims of dealing with witnesses were very important. At the hearing on November 27, 2024, Judge Subramanian denied Combs bail, saying that there was strong proof of his violent behavior and a high likelihood that witnesses would be tampered with. The judge specifically talked about breaking Bureau of Prisons rules that are meant to keep conversations secret. As the legal battle got tougher, Combs was repeatedly denied bail and was under more and more pressure from the justice system. This problem became even more important. Combs was not granted bail by U.S. District Judge Robin Tarnowski on September 19, 2024. She said she could not be sure that he would return to court or that the community would be safe or that witnesses would be protected. This decision was later confirmed by U.S. District Judge Andrew Carter Jr. after Combs made an appeal. He was still facing major charges, such as conspiracy to extort, sex trafficking, and transportation for prostitution. Combs is accused of abusing, threatening, and forcing women and other people to do things against their will from 2008 to 2024, as part of a larger plot that included sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribes, and getting in the way of the law. The meeting yesterday made the case even more serious by focusing a lot on perjury and contempt of court. Legal experts quickly pointed out that lying in federal court is a serious crime that could get Combs up to 5 years in prison, on top of any other punishments he might get if he is found guilty of the present charges. Even scarier for the defense was the idea that these new details could make it much harder to choose a jury and have a direct effect on the result of the trial. Judge Subramanian has openly questioned Combs's credibility and shown a lot of anger over his behavior, which has made the music mogul situation much more vulnerable. People who were in the courtroom said the judge said he would do something very unusual. He would send the case to federal officials so they could look into possible new charges, such as perjury and obstruction of justice. In an unusual move for a high-profile hearing like this one, Judge Subramanian also said he would take away some procedural rights that had been given to Combs and his legal team because they had been dishonest and didn't follow the rules. As soon as everyone in the courtroom understood what the judge had said, there was a heavy quiet. Judge Subramanian tightened his grip on Combs' defense plan by limiting some procedural options. This made things much harder for his lawyers as they got ready for opening statements. Everyone there got a clear message from this behavior. During the hearing, lying and trickery would not be allowed. When the hearing was over, everyone in the courtroom had some time to think about the huge consequences of what had just happened. What started out as a normal meeting to finish choosing the jury turned into a turning point that could change the whole course of the case. The events that took place in the Manhattan courtroom on May 8, 2025, made one thing very clear. Judge Aaron Subramanian will not stand for anyone trying to change the outcome of the hearing by lying. Even though we don't know what will happen with the hearing starting on May 12, one thing is certain. The judge's strong response to what he saw as a major breach of trust changed the mood in the courtroom for good. The revelations during the hearings have made things more tense and seem to have changed the case's course in a big way. The claims against Diddy now match even more closely with what Philip Pines, who used to work as the music mogul's top executive assistant from December 2019 to December 2021, said. In a detailed lawsuit and several conversations with the media, Pines talked about a man who regularly used his power to demand loyalty and obedience, which made things even worse for Combs in this case. In an interview with journalist Mara Escom, Pines said something very interesting about the intense power relations at play. "Prove your loyalty to me, King." Pines talked about a time when Sean Combs allegedly made him have sex with a woman at a sex party. In his case, Pines says he was forced to do sexual acts as a test of his loyalty. For example, he says he was forced to have sex with a woman during an event called Wild King Night. Besides that, he says he was in charge of cleaning up after these parties, which he says had drugs, booze, and sexual activity. There were drugs like booze, marijuana, ketamine, baby oil, and astralglide at these parties, which sometimes went on for several days. Candles, incense, and a very hedonistic mood made the mood even better. At first, Pines's claims seemed separate from the main charges against Combs. But new information has shown a disturbing pattern of behavior that prosecutors now think includes lying to witnesses and tampering with evidence. Yesterday's courtroom was rocked when prosecutors showed proof that Combs not only lied about what he said to witnesses, but he may have also tried to sway the jury. When it was revealed that a possible juror worked at MDC Brooklyn, the detention center where Combs is being held, real concerns were raised right away. Even though there wasn't a direct link between Combs and the juror, the court had a strong response to both legal teams' failure to spot the clear conflict during jury selection. A lot of people were angry in the courtroom because of this. Tensions in the legal system rose sharply when prosecutors described a number of legal strategies they think were used to slow down and obstruct the court process. On April 18, 2025, Combs' lawyers publicly asked for the trial to be put off for 2 months so that the defense could prepare. The request came after the third superseding indictment came out on April 4, 2025. It added new charges of sex trafficking and transporting people to be prostitutes. The request was turned down by Judge Subramanian, who said that Combs already had enough lawyers with at least 4 of them and that the trial would begin right away. The judge also made it clear that he would not let any more probes happen to find more proof. Tensions hit a breaking point yesterday during the hearing, where it was made clear that the court thought Combs's alleged lying about his conversations with witnesses was an intentional attempt to stop the justice system. Legal experts who were in the courtroom said that things were getting more and more tense as proof of Combs' alleged perjury grew. The fact that the case was sent to another judge to consider possible perjury and obstruction of justice charges showed how seriously the court is taking the claims against Combs. These new details from yesterday are likely to have big effects on both the trial and Combs' defense plan as a whole. He is being charged with very serious crimes, such as extortion, plot, sex trafficking, and transporting women for prostitution. According to the prosecutors, Combs used his business company to force women to have sexual acts at events called freak-offs from 2004 to 2024. While using violence, threats, and blackmail to keep people in line. If these accusations are true, Combs could get harsh punishments, like spending decades in prison if found guilty of all crimes. In addition, the possibility of being charged with lying has made the legal risks he already faces even greater. In the federal system of justice, perjury can get you up to 5 years in jail per count, which puts a lot of pressure on Combs' defense. How these new facts might affect the jury is a big problem for the defense. Even though jurors are told to only consider the evidence given during the trial, the fact that these heated arguments happen in public could change the minds of those who have to make the final decision. Also, the judge's move to take away some procedural rights that Combs and his lawyers have been given before is a big problem that makes it harder for them to put together a strong defense. The exact rules haven't been made public yet, but lawyers think they might make it harder for the defense to file certain motions or change how arguments and proof are presented in court. These rules could make it much harder for the defense to question whether or not important evidence and witness testimony is admissible or reliable, which would be very bad for Combs. This new information comes just a few days before the opening statements on May 12. It puts a lot of pressure on Combs' legal team, who are already facing a tough fight. Now, Combs' lawyers have to change their plan while the case is being closely watched by the judge and they have fewer options for how to proceed. Not only do these new changes make the case more difficult from a legal point of view, but they may also have bigger effects on future trials. Meanwhile, the new information has brought the attention of the public and the law again to other witnesses and victims who have come forward against Combs. Courtney Burgess is one of them, and she is likely to be very important in the hearing. Burgess has made serious accusations in public, such as saying she has sex tapes with Combs and other famous people. In an interview with News Nation, Courtney Burgess said she had videos of Combs and other celebs doing sexual things, some of which she said involved minors. She also said that at least 3 of the people in these recordings were too young to be there and that the celebrities had been drugged without their permission. These shocking accusations have made the case much more tense and complicated. They have also brought a lot of public and legal attention to Combs' trial, which is now surrounded by very important legal and moral issues. Recent dramatic events in Sean Diddy's hearing have made his legal problems worse, making the situation more complicated and serious. He is being charged with extortion, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation for prostitution. These are all very serious charges that could lead to long jail terms. However, new accusations of lying and obstruction of justice have made the case bigger, and now everyone involved has to deal with legal problems that have never been seen before. When witness Courtney Burgess said that Combs was involved in violent sexual acts, Combs sued Burgess, his lawyer Ariel Mitchell, and News Nation for $50 million for slander. This made things worse. These claims, along with a lawsuit filed in March 2025 by NFL player Odell Beckham Jr. and comedian Drewski over an alleged group rape, have made things very complicated for investigators as they build their case. The people being sued for defamation have denied doing anything wrong, but these stories that overlap could make it harder for the jury to decide how true the claims are and how broad they are. If you think this story is interesting, please let us know in the comments. What do you think about the claims in this lawsuit? Don't forget to like, follow, and check back for more. Glad you watched, and see you in the next film. Yesterday, the courtroom was more tense than ever because Judge Subramanian ordered a more thorough investigation into claims that Combs lied under oath about his conversations with witnesses. The court reacted quickly and firmly because this behavior is thought to be part of a larger plan to trick and slow down the trial. The way ahead of Combs and his defense team is full of obstacles. The judge's decision to take away some procedural rights from the defense, along with the new information about Combs's legal maneuvers, will make it very hard for them to carry out their defense plan. Music: Combs's lawyers now have to defend his trustworthiness in court while also getting ready for the possibility that jurors will be biased because of recent events in the public eye. The trial starts on May 12, 2025. But the events of the day before have cast a long shadow over the proceedings, making things more tense and raising important questions about how fair the trial is. Most lawyers think that this could be a turning point that could completely change the course of the case and have a big effect on the decisions the jury and the court made during the trial. With these shocking new details and more accusations, the case has become more than just a public court fight. It's now a fight for everyone's honor and character, especially Combs, who has a lot of problems getting his defense together. The move by Judge Subramanian to bring up the possibility of more perjury charges has made the Sean Diddy Combs case more serious. It now presents a legal challenge that could have a direct effect on the defense's strategy. When someone is charged with perjury, especially when they give sworn evidence in court, the charges go beyond simple procedures. They go after the core of the justice system and the public's trust in the law system. These accusations could get someone up to 5 years in prison for each count. This could make the court and the people very angry. Elena Michaels, a legal analyst and former federal prosecutor, says that Combs' reputation in court would be severely hurt by the perjury charge. These charges could not only get him more punishments, but they could also make the jurors doubt his honesty, which would change how they judge other evidence and statements during the trial. Combs is being charged with extortion, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation for prostitution. These are all very serious crimes that could lead to long jail terms. From 2004 to 2024, prosecutors said Combs ran a sophisticated criminal business by using his power and influence to force women to have sexual acts at events called freakouts or Wild King Nights. Not only are these charges very serious, but they also involve a lot of different types of criminal behavior, such as using violence, threats, and abuse of power against victims to keep them from reporting crimes. Also, the fact that Combs' bail was denied multiple times, especially in November 2024, shows that the court is very worried about the possibility of violence and witness tampering. Based on this proof, the judge decided that Combs had to stay in jail to protect the safety of the community and make sure that the legal process was fair. His continued arrest puts more stress on the defense team, who have to handle a case that is complicated legally and has a lot of strategic problems. Combs' lawyers need to get ready for a tough court case because the charges against him are piling up and there are real concerns about perjury and courtroom manipulation. In addition to defending their client against the main charges, they have to deal with more attention from both the court and the public. This problem is made even harder by the fact that trust, honesty, and truth in the legal system are becoming more important. The defense team, which includes lawyers Mark Agnafilo, Tenny Garagos, Alexander Shapiro, and Anna Esteo, has a huge job to do. They have to rebuild the court's trust while also getting ready for a very complicated trial in a very tense situation. The latest decision by the judge to take away some procedural rights that have been given to the defense has made things much harder. The defense team might not be able to build a strong case because of these limits. The exact details of the lost rights have not been made public, but lawyers think that they might include strict limits on making important motions, presenting proof, or questioning witnesses. A criminal defense lawyer named Jonathan Reynolds says that in cases like this one, being able to change the rules is very important to make sure a fair hearing. These rules can seriously hurt a defense plan if they are not carefully managed, and following them could have a direct effect on how the case ends in the end. These changes in the law happen just days before the opening comments of the trial, which makes things harder for the defense team. They don't have much time to change how they're doing things, so they have to find ways to deal with these sudden changes and limitations while under a lot of stress. These problems not only slow down the case, but they also make things harder for the defense team because they have to change their plan quickly. The defense team has a bigger problem because the accusations against Combs are so serious and cover a lot of ground. The prosecutor's case includes evidence from several victims who say Combs forced them to do sexual things. Philip Pines, who used to work as Combs's senior executive assistant and has made specific claims about the bad things that happened to him while he was working for the music mogul from 2019 to 2021, is one of the main accusers. Pines has said in a lawsuit and in several interviews with the media that he was made to do sexual acts as a test of his loyalty. He talked about the time he was forced to have sex with a woman at a wild party because he thought that refusing could have bad results that he didn't know about. It was like a psychological and emotional roller coaster for me, Pines said. He also said that it was his job to clean up after these events, which he said had drugs, booze, and sexual activity. In addition to cleaning, he had to get rid of drug proof, clean up body stains, delete private videos, and even pay hotel staff to stay quiet. There was more tension in the case because of these claims, and Combs' actions looked worse because of them. I've never seen Diddy do anything sexual with other people. From what I know, he doesn't get involved directly. Instead, he runs things behind the scenes, away from the camera. I've seen that kind of picture or video being asked to be deleted, especially from devices that are connected. These claims have been made before in the Combs case. They are similar to other charges that were made against him in lawsuits. This creates a pattern of behavior that prosecutors say shows a planned way of taking advantage of people and forcing them to do things. Audria English, who used to be an adult entertainment star, is also a key player in this case. She sued Combs in July 2024, saying that between 2004 and 2009, she was tricked into the sex trade at parties for white people. English says she was made to use drugs like ecstasy and have sex with customers against her will. She also says that Combs used his power to threaten her with physical harm or the end of her career in order to quiet her and keep her from speaking out. English's legal fight has run into a number of problems. Her lawyer has changed several times, and in March 2025, 2 law firms quit because of unresolvable disagreements, disruptive behavior, and suspicious actions. Even with these problems, English's claims are still a big part of the bigger story that prosecutors plan to tell the court. Her statement not only gives a close look at Combs' actions, but it also shows how power works and how people are manipulated. Combs is being accused of more than just what he did. In March 2025, the case was changed to include NFL star Odell Beckham Jr. and comedian Drew Sky as new defendants. Both were accused of taking part in a violent gang rape in Orinda, California, in 2018. Beckham said he wasn't in Orinda at the time and had never met Parm. Drew Sky and Beckham have strongly rejected these claims. These new claims add to the complexity of a case that already has a lot of disturbing details. Music. Because these accusations are so serious, it is important to check Combs's trustworthiness. Prosecutors have shown that Combs lied when he said he talked to witnesses, using phone records and witness statements as proof. Court papers show that Combs took advantage of the fact that inmates at the Metropolitan Detention Center could use their phones to call people connected to the case without permission. These acts not only make Combs look bad, but they also make me very worried about how he may have hacked the legal system with his power and influence. People think that breaking prison contact rules is a very serious crime because it shows a deliberate and calculated effort to avoid being watched, which makes people very worried about the integrity of the investigation. The situation got even more complicated when it was found that a possible juror used to work at the prison where Combs is being held now. Such admissions give the impression that the case is not open and honest, which makes people doubt the fairness of the trial even more. Legal experts say that what happened yesterday in Judge Subramanian's hearing was a turning point and a defining moment in a case that was already very special. With reporters and crowds watching, the cases are very public, which shows how seriously the court is taking the accusations of perjury and obstruction of justice. It makes it clear to people who are watching the case that the court will not stand for attempts to change the truth. Priya Sharma, a legal scholar, says that when a federal judge rules on proof that a defendant lied under oath, it is a turning point in the trial that can't be missed. This strong stance not only condemns this kind of behavior, but it also shows that the court and defendant no longer get along. Even though there will be times when you have to argue, this connection must always be based on honesty and trust. A chain reaction could happen because of this event, affecting the whole sentencing process. Judges are supposed to be fair and impartial throughout the case, no matter how they personally feel about the defendant's trustworthiness. However, how the court sees the truth can affect many parts of the case. This impact goes beyond decisions about objections, it can also affect choices about what evidence can be used. Music, the jury is told to make their decision based only on the evidence given in court, but it is clear that the mood around the case, especially after yesterday's fight, will affect how they see it. External factors can slowly make their way into the courtroom and change the course of the trial, making it more complicated and important. These events pose a tough strategic task for Combs's legal team. On the one hand, they need to keep up a strong defense against the major charges their client is facing. On the other hand, they have to be very careful about how they deal with their relationship with the court, which is getting worse because of claims of lying on purpose. The law team has to be very careful with every move they make right now so that the already complicated case doesn't get even more complicated. It will be even harder for Combs's defense now that the judge has taken away some procedural rights that were previously given to the offender. Even though the court doesn't do this very often, it is well within its power to do so when there are worries about possible interference with or manipulation of the legal process. This decision has made the defense plan less certain, so the legal team has had to quickly adapt to changes that came up out of the blue. No matter what strategy they use, Combs' lawyers will have to fight a tough battle on ground that has suddenly become much steeper, according to one expert. Even though the presumption of innocence is still a basic legal concept, what happened yesterday has made things much harder for a defense team that is already dealing with serious and complicated charges. Because of these new facts, the defense team has to be extra careful in everything they do and change their plan to protect their client as much as possible. The prosecutors may see yesterday's events as supporting their main idea that Combs is someone who is ready to trick and scare people to get what he wants. The claims that he lied to witnesses about his business dealings add to what they say about how Combs runs his company. These accusations are more than just one instance of wrongdoing, they point to a larger pattern of behavior that is meant to keep power and control. The main charges in the case are blackmail and sex trafficking, which are based on these facts. The accusations talk about how Combs reportedly controlled employees, business partners, and possible victims, setting up a large criminal network. This case isn't just about one person doing something wrong. It shows the methods he is said to be using on a regular basis to keep his power and influence in his personal and work life. Yesterday's dramatic confrontation brings up important questions about fame, power, and responsibility in our legal system that go beyond the people who were directly involved in the trial. This isn't just a court case about what's right and wrong. Now is the time to rethink how society watches over and holds people with a lot of power and influence responsible. Will powerful people like Combs keep changing things to help themselves? Or will the court system protect justice and protect the rights of the weak in the end? Sean Diddy Combs has made a huge fortune and a lot of power by building a company that includes music, fashion, media, and business. But this kingdom has also gotten a lot of negative attention and criticism from the public. The new accusations against him make us think very deeply about how this kind of power is used, especially when things happen behind closed doors. Are the systems in place to protect people who are weak enough to handle the enormous power of figures like Combs? This case involves more than one person. It makes us think about fairness and accountability in society as a whole. Many victims who have been brave enough to speak out against Combs may see these recent events as a turning point in getting their worries about being manipulated and scared heard. These accusations bring to light not only Combs's acts, but also bigger problems with safety and fairness in a society shaped by power and influence. Many victims have said they kept quiet for years because they were afraid of getting hurt again. Some say that Combs's power and influence made it hard for victims to think that they would be safe if they came forward. These stories show that there is a major problem with insecurity and not enough help for people who are affected by it. The legal community is very interested in how Judge Subramanian will handle the complicated problems that have come up since the recent revelations. Opening statements are on Monday. After dealing with worries about possible perjury, Judge Subramanian now has the very important job of making sure the hearing goes smoothly and fairly. There can be no outside influence on any choice, it has to be based only on the evidence presented in court. This is one of the most difficult things for any judge to deal with in high-profile cases. Things that happened in the trial yesterday make the judge's job even harder. What the jury is supposed to do is just as important. Next week, they will start hearing evidence, and they will have to carefully look over a lot of complicated testimony and upsetting facts about things that happened 20 years ago. Finding the truth in a case that has gotten a lot of attention and debate from the public will be hard, and the jury will need to think about it carefully and make fair decisions. The path ahead is still unclear, especially after the strange events that happened in yesterday's hearing. The judge's choice to bring possible perjury charges has opened up a new legal path that could last after the current trial is over. Additionally, the defense team is now having instant practical problems because some procedural rights have been taken away. The fact that this fight happened in public means that it will be studied and argued about in the law community for years to come. It's no longer just a question of whether Sean Diddy Combs will be found guilty of the major charges against him. It's also about whether the court system can be kept honest when it seems like people are trying to break it down on purpose. People used to be very interested in the music mogul's artistic and business successes, but now the attention shines on him in a very different way. Instead of being a sign of success and charm, it has become the center of accusations of exploitation, pressure, and possibly lying. These dramatic times in court may end up being the most important parts of this case's history. It sends a strong message that no one is above the law or free from the basic duty to be honest in court, no matter how famous, wealthy, or powerful they are. That's why this message is so important, not just for Combs but also as a strong warning to people in power. The law has to stay fair and can't be changed. After this video is over, we will continue to follow every important development in the case until the final decision. Will the court be fair in a case that everyone around the world is talking about? As the trial goes on and more information comes out, it will be easier to see what will happen. Will the court promise that this highly known case will be fair? In the end, what do you think will happen? Leave a 1 if you think justice will be done. Leave a 0 if you think there will be unfairness. Don't forget to like the video and support us by subscribing to get news about new videos.